Hello, children. So, today we are going to start a new chapter that is Expert Detectives. But before we read the chapter, we need to know some important points about the characters of the chapter. Okay, so Nishat, a boy of 7, also called 7 because his name means the seventh note on the musical scale, and his 10-year-old sister Maya are very curious about one Mr. Nut. Then one day, the children's marble rolls into Mr. Nut's room, and Nishat gets a chance to see him. Is he a crook on the run? Why is his face badly scarred? Why has he no friends? Nishat's mother, a doctor, knows Mr. Nat as a patient who is very polite. Okay, so now let's start. As we walked back towards the clinic, Seven said, "He does not look anything like a monster, Maya. But did you see how thin he is? Maybe he is very poor and can't afford to eat." "He can't be poor if he is a crook on the run," I told him. "He has probably got millions of rupees stashed away somewhere in that room." Stash means hidden away, somewhere in that room. "Do you really think he is a criminal, Maya?" "He does not look like one." Nishat looked doubtfully. "Of course he is one, Seven," I said. "And he certainly is not starving. Mr. Mehta told us that Ramesh brings his meals up from the restaurant downwards." "But Maya, Mr. Mehta told us he does not work anywhere. So how can he possibly have money to pay for food?" Nishat said. "Exactly," exclaimed. "He must have lots of money hidden somewhere. Maybe in that trunk in his room. It's probably full of silver and gold and jewels and—" "What rubbish!" Nishat interrupted. "I know I'm right, stupid," I told him. "By the way, Seven, did you see his scars?" I could not. It was too dark, but I bet he got them during a shootout with the police or something. "Mummy told us quite clearly they were burn scars," Nishat said firmly. "Perhaps the police had to set his house on fire to force him out," I suggested. Seven looked unsure. On the Monday following Mama's birthday, Seven went alone with her to the clinic in Girgaon, as I was spending the evening with her school friend. When they returned, Nisha told me he had been to see Mr. Nat, and I felt most annoyed that I had not been there. Seven had been quite upset about Mr. Nat's gaunt appearance. Gaunt means sickly, and was sure that he was starving. He told me that he had knocked loudly on Mr. Nat's door that evening and said, "Open the door quickly, Mr. Nat." The man had opened it and asked him, "Lost another marble?" He had obviously recognized my brother. "No," said Nishat. He had taken the man's hand in his own. and thrust a bar of chocolate into it. Did you get a chance to peek into the trunk, Seven? I asked. Nishat looked disappointed. He did not even ask me in, he said. Then he smiled. But I did find out something, Maya. I went down to the restaurant where Ramesh works and talked to him. Good for you, Mr. Detective, I said, patting him on the back. I hope you questioned him properly. Seven looked pleased. Ramesh told me that he takes 2 meals for Mr. Nat every morning and evening and 2 cups of tea, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Ramesh says he is not very particular about what he eats. It's always the same food: 2 chapatis, some dal, and a vegetable. Mr. Nath pays cash and tips well. Ramesh told me something very strange, Maya. Seven added. Almost every Sunday he carries 2 lunches to Mr. Nath's room, and the same man is with him each time. He is tall, fair, stout, and wears spectacles. Ramesh says his visitor talks a lot, unlike Mr. Nath, who hardly speaks. Well done, Nishat, I told him. Now that we have made some progress with our enquiries, we will have to sort out all the facts like expert detectives so that we can trap the crook. Crook means criminal. How you do go on, Maya? Seven sighed. How can you possibly imagine he is a crook? He looks so ordinary. Criminals can look quite ordinary, smarty, I retorted. Did you see the picture of the Hyderabadi housebreaker in the papers yesterday? He looked like any man on the street. Nishat looked doubtful. The monsoons broke the next day. Dark clouds, accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning and roaring rolls of thunder, burst with all their fury, flooding the streets with a heavy downpour. School was to have reopened after the summer holidays, but no traffic could move through the flooded roads, and there was an unexpected holiday. I thought I'd spend the time usefully. I sat on my desk on our bedroom with a sheet of paper before me. Okay, so this is the part 1. Now I'll explain the whole part together. The part 1. So, from the story, you can see the story has many characters in it. Yes, there are 3 children, we are very sure about it. One is the narrator, one is the younger brother, that is Nishat, okay, and his nickname is Seven, and his sister named Maya, and they become expert detectives. We also come to know that their mother is a doctor and she has a clinic. Now, here in the story, Mr. Nat is the main character or the principal character who lives in Sankar's house alone, and he is under treatment. Ramesh, the boy from the restaurant, he takes tea and meals from the restaurant to Nat's room upstairs. and Nat pays cash and also sometimes tips to the bearer or the waiter, we can say, right? And these children, they go ahead to collect information about Nat. They think Mr. Nat is a mysterious person. Why? Because he has no friend here, and therefore Nishat has a bit of sympathy also for Mr. Nat. His approach in this case is sensible, no? We can see by reading the chapter only. Now, the narrator, he is very sure that Mr. Nat is an escaped crook. Crook means criminal. He is an escaped criminal. Nishat is doubtful. He is very doubtful and he wants to discover the truth. And therefore, he collects a lot of information in the case. The narrator has got a ready answer to all Nishat's doubts. He thinks that Nat is a rich man. He was perhaps got millions of rupees locked in some trunks in his room. Yes? And these children, they also notes that Mr. Nat has a dark scars in his face, and therefore they doubt that Nat might have got them during a shootout with the police. But here Nishat contradicts him. He told that his mummy had told him that they were burned scars and not like shootout scars. Then one day, seven means seven means Nishat. He goes alone to his mama's clinic at Girgaon. He gets upset to see Mr. Nat, who looks so thin, so poor and starving. He looks like malnourished. He goes to Nat's room and he puts a bar of chocolate in the man's hand. He then collects more clues about Mr. Nat's routine. He goes to the restaurant, then he meets Mr. Ramesh, the waiter, and Ramesh told him that on every Sunday he carries 2 lunches to Mr. Nat's room, and every time he has the same visitor. Okay, and the narrator has also given the description of the visitor. I mean the boy Ramesh, the waiter. He gave the description. He is tall, he is fair, stout, and talks a lot. Okay, whereas Mr. Nath simply listens. But Nishat cannot imagine Nath as a criminal, as a crook. Okay, so this is the explanation of the first part. So in the next class we'll see what happens in the second part of the chapter. Okay, but before that let us discuss the word meanings. So the first word is stash away. Stash away means hidden away, to hide something. Then following means coming after. After this, then that. Like this, coming after one by one. Gaunt means sickly, very sick, very poor, was not well. Okay. Then the next word is peek. Peek means to have a quick look. Look quickly and secretively, to have a quick look. That is peek. Then tips well means give a generous tips, money, like in restaurant, no, when we go, we used to pay the bills, but then sometimes we used to give some money as a gratitude to the waiter, no, because he used to bring food for us, he used to serve us, and no, so that's why, no, sometimes we, as a gratitude, we used to give some money, so that is tips. Okay. Then short out means to arrange systematically one by one, to be organized. Next word is crook. Crook means criminal, I already told you. Okay, so these are some of the new words from the first part, and in the next class we'll continue with the second part of this chapter. So thank you for today.